5. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to the Poudre School District Board of Education meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 9th, 2017. Thank you for joining us, and please mute your cell phones as we begin the meeting. 1.0 is call to order, so I guess we are now called to order. 2.0 is Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. On approval of the agenda, do any board members have anything that they would like to change on the agenda this evening outside of the consent agenda? Okay. That brings us to 4.0, recognitions and reports. Dr. Smizer.
Welcome, everyone. Our recognitions tonight feature outstanding employees. Danielle Clark, Executive Director of Communications, is here to MC and introduce our honorees.
Thank you, Dr. Smizer, members of the board, members of the community. As Dr. Smizer said, this evening we're going to be honoring some employees. So first up, if we could have Dr. Woodall and Mr. Modelmog from Rocky Mountain High School. Wayne Modelmog was recently named the 5A Colorado Athletic Director of the Year. And so Dr. Woodall will say a few words about him, and then Wayne can speak.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it greatly. I will tell you, Wayne is not big on recognition, much less public recognition, but if you're seeing anxiety, it's more that we have our first round of soccer playoffs started 3 minutes ago, and Wayne doesn't miss our events. So he was there for probably 2 hours getting it ready before he even came here. But that says who Wayne is. I have known a lot of athletic directors, been an athletic director, and there is no one anywhere near what this man brings to the table as far as athletics. The countless hours he puts in at events, at school, meeting with coaches, players, parents. It's just unreal. It's embarrassing that I even did that same job when I look at how I used to do it compared to him. But not only will you not find a better athletic director, you won't find a better man in that role of athletic director. Just his humility, his character, his integrity. He's just incredible, and he embodies so much of who we are at Rocky. Huge example of the Lobo way with his commitment to our athletic programs and our staff and students. So it is an honor for me to have him as our athletic director, but also call him a friend. So help me recognize the 5A Athletic Director of the Year, Wayne Modelmog.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm not very good at recognition. It really was a humbling award anytime you win an award like that, but I think it's a tribute to a lot of things. I'm very fortunate to work in the building that I work. I've got an administrative team that is tremendously supportive, a group of teachers, a group of coaches that work diligently with our athletes, both academically and athletically. And I think more importantly than that, I work in a school district that values what we do. That in and by itself, I just can't thank you enough for allowing me to have an opportunity to be what I am. You know, I'm an athlete at heart. I'm a product of this school system years ago, and I learned many, many valuable lessons through athletics. And it's an education-based program. That's what we view it. And we have an awful lot of athletes that are learning life lessons through sport. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity, for supporting us, and what you do is important. So thank you very much.
I just want to, on behalf of the board, thank the athletic director for his fine work making the whole district look good, and agree that the athletic program is part of the educational program and is valuable to pursue at the highest level. Thank you.
Before you come to your walk of fame, since you're a product of the school district, our tradition here is that we ask people to tell them what schools they went to. So if you could do that first, we'd appreciate it.
Well, this goes back a ways. Let's see. I moved here in 1962, and the first school that I went to was Barton. And then the next year I went to Harris. And then the next year I went to Laurel. And then the next year, my 6th grade year, was the year that O'Day opened. So I rode a bus for several years before I got to walk to O'Day, but that was on the south end of town. Then after that I went to Lesher Middle School, junior high then, and then Fort Collins High School. And then I also went to Colorado State University and graduated from there. So yeah, I'm very fortunate to have had that opportunity.
While Mr. Motomog finishes that, we'll have Tony Rowland, the President of the Association of Classified Employees, and Mr. Matt Bryant, the Director of Transportation. Ms. Gutowski, would you like to join us? For our next recognition, we'll be honoring our Classified Employees of the Year, and Mr. Rowland will start with our ACE Classified Employees of the Year and the Don Morford Custodial Award.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Smizer, President Kipp, Board, Cabinet, audience here, and of course all those folks at home. I'm Tony Rowland, President of the Association of Classified Employees of Poudre School District. I'm pleased to be here tonight to help honor our Classified Employees of the Year. Additionally, Brian Elshoff, Manager of Custodial Services, has asked me to speak on behalf of the custodian who is the recipient of the Don Morford Award. Each year, the ACE organization, through the sites and departments of the district, take nominations for Employee of the Year. We had 16 nominations this year and elected 6 for the award. These awards and the banquet dinner we sponsor are solely funded by the dues of our members, and I wish to thank every one of them for their generosity. We work hard to stretch that $1 a month. Tonight, we have 3 of our award recipients on hand. Please welcome Cheryl Alba, Office Manager of EAS, Employee Services, Assistance Services, Melissa Buderas, Paraprofessional in Early Childhood Special Education, Irish Elementary School, and Alejandra Orozco, Family Liaison, Linton Elementary School. If you'll all come up, please. The 3 recipients who could not be with us here tonight are Ellie Locke, Tutor for Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Learners at Poudre High School, Andrew Kaminsky, Head Custodian at Polaris Expeditionary Learning School, and Kathy Godosi, Office Manager for Integrated Services. Each of our classified employees are deserving of this award. We are simply limited by time and money. Additionally, as I mentioned, on behalf of Custodial Services, I'd like to present Dale Foster, recipient of the Don Morford Award. Dale is head custodian at Trout Elementary School. If you'll come up, Dale, also, please. The Don Morford Award is presented to a custodian who shows a personal dedication to students and has demonstrated an outstanding work ethic. The site staff nominate custodians that demonstrate these qualities. On behalf of the 1,670 classified employees of Poudre School District, we thank you for this opportunity. Only if they wish. I promise them no speeches. So.
Thank you. How was that? You too. Just stand right there, though. And Melissa. Yes, here you are. Here's your award and a handshake. No, thank you, but thank you. Congratulations. Say something? Thank you.
There you go. You guys did beautifully.
And Dale Foster. Yes.
You want to give a speech, don't you?
No. The only thing I would say is I'm really proud to work for this school district, and I didn't go to any Fort Collins PSD schools, but both my kids did. And I had no idea this was all going on behind the scenes. I had no idea what all the para people do, all the classified people do. I had no idea. But what they do is just amazing. And I really thank you guys for your support for all of us people who are running behind the scenes with our kids. So thanks for the honor. You know, we're just also happy with what you've done for us. So thank you.
That was the perfect lead-in to what I wanted to tell you guys. And the reason why I was hoping I would be able to give the classified award is because from very early on, I was given a healthy appreciation for classified employees because my mom, for many, many years, was a school secretary. And she told me when I became a teacher not to get too uppity about that because she says the teachers teach the kids, but the classified runs the school. And so then I got married, and my mother-in-law was also a school secretary. So I've had nothing but love and appreciation, and I agree. You know, we have sometimes no idea how many people are behind the scenes making it all happen. I need you to know that I and the board very much appreciate all that you do, all that you do. So you're welcome.
And now we're going to have Mr. Bryant, who's going to talk about the Brett Holm Award for Transportation.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight, and it is my pleasure tonight to introduce our Brett Holm Award winner. Brett Holm is famous, I guess, in transportation for being a man of high character. He did a lot of good for students. He was always there to help out, and he was always there to pitch in when needed. And I'm regretful that I didn't know him personally after hearing such great things about him. But the recipient of this award tonight has exhibited those same characteristics. She's done a great job for us for a few years now. I'll try to keep this short because she really likes to talk, and I'm sure she's got a big speech prepared. She's giving me darts now. Amy is very much the person that doesn't like the recognition either, but we're forcing this on her because she is she's entitled to this. She has earned this in big ways, and we're blessed to have her in our department and all she does, and she keeps me from probably getting fired or going to jail, and that's another big project that she takes on a daily basis. So I'll introduce you tonight to Amy Hatch.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Are you done? We're done. Okay. So you guys get to take the walk away. But hang on. Okay. Come on. Yeah.
And that concludes our recognitions this evening.
Okay, that brings us to the superintendent's report, I believe. Is that what we're on? Yes. Dr. Smizer.
Thank you. So since our last meeting, I have met with the board, with Jared Polis, about school finance. We're all working on that large task. Had a quarterly check-in with Cheryl from the Bohemian Foundation. They continue to support us in amazing ways throughout the district. Had several meetings with individual board members. Interviewed some school principals. We have some new principals joining the ranks, and I participate in the final interviews for all principals. Attended a PSD City County liaison meeting, which has become quite a good tradition with our school board. Held a meeting with my group of teachers, the profession of teaching, I've called them. And they are a wonderful group of teachers and have some interesting ideas that they wish to share with the organization in the fall. Attended Scholarship Awards Breakfast, the PSD Foundation annual breakfast, which, by the way, did raise $100,000 for SPY grants and other projects that go straight into the classroom, which is pretty exciting. Congratulations to them. Held a budget information session. Attended the Mary Hall Awards ceremony, although I was not able to stay for the whole thing. It's very fun to watch an entire room full of educators being honored for the work that they do. Also attended the Masonic Public Schools Recognition Ceremony, annual tradition held at the hall, and it just recognizes one student from every single one of our schools. Attended the principal meetings. Oops. The Classified Employee of the Year banquet, where these folks that you just saw were honored. Participated in negotiations, attended the CASE annual awards reception, met with Jim Park from Otterbox and Tom Gendron with Woodward Governor. I will say that our companies and major corporations and owners of businesses, both large and small, throughout this community really appreciate the school district and recognize what a critical role we play in the economy as well as just in the community itself. Attended the retiree celebration for educators retiring this year and spoke at the last DAB meeting of the year. What an amazing group of parents and leaders. Thank you, Ginger, for your leadership with that group this year. And they continue to just get better every year. Amazing ideas, and they put those ideas into action and advise us and help us as a district. They've just been great. Visited Shepherdson, Bethke, Timnath, Tavelli, Polaris, Zach, Linton, Lesher, Fort Collins, Harris, Kennard, and Putnam since the last board meeting. And here's a few things that are happening. 13 PSD teams qualified for Odyssey of the Mind World Finals, which is the highest number ever for our district. We have high school graduation ceremonies coming up right around the corner, and lots of scholarship awards ceremonies. Happen to know that Pooters is happening right now. Met with the Fort Collins Chamber Legal Legislative Action Committee. PSD's Finance Department has been awarded the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And if you can make an acronym out of that, try. For the 2016 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, this is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. So congratulations, Dave, and to your team. And May is Employee Appreciation Month in PSD. We've been having some fun trying to honor our amazing employees. We have promotion ceremonies, and secondary schools are busy, very, very busy, scheduling classes and building master schedules for next year. Lots of end-of-year field day activities. To my knowledge, there were none during any hailstorms so far. And lots of awards, banquets, and extracurricular awards and banquets happening at the end of the year. There's Alternative Education Night coming up, May 10th, which I believe is tomorrow. And that is for families who may want some information about our non-traditional schools and programs. So we have several different kinds of alternative schools, and if you are interested in finding out more about those, you can show up. Is the location on there? It looks like it's here. Here. It's right here in this room. Pooter High School has been ranked 4th in the state for the number of students enrolled in concurrent enrollment programming, so congratulations to them. Some elementary schools are at Eco Week right now, and the PSD Communications Department won 16 state awards and 2 national awards this year. Congratulations, Danielle. Where'd she go? There she is. And U.S. News and World Report's 2017 Best High Schools in America included 4 PSD schools in their ranking of more than 22,000 public high schools. Liberty Common, 4th in Colorado, 126th in the United States. Ridgeview Classical, 8th in Colorado and 201st in the U.S. Fossil, 20th in Colorado, 676th in the U.S. And Rocky Mountain, 45th in Colorado, just under 2,000 in the U.S. So congratulations to all 4 of those schools. Front Range is having a Career Pathways Carnival, and we have 8th graders around the district going to that. As a matter of fact, did that just happen? Yes, that was Monday, right? Yes, and so did it go well? Yes. And we are really building, as a matter of fact, had a very much of a breakthrough meeting with Front Range this last week. Are very excited about being able to build more opportunities with them. We're going to be doing some strategic planning with them together, and we're very excited about that. We learned about opportunities for, the kids learned about opportunities for career exploration that's available in high school, particularly highlighting 11 different programs. And that's all I have.
Next, we have our board report delivered by Director Pedersen.
All right, so I want to share with you the work that the board has been doing between our school board meetings. You'll find that a lot of this is very familiar because there are monthly meetings and the like that we attend. Within the district that we visited some more of the schools, we have tried to get to every school in the district, at least one board member to every school in the district during the school year. And during this period, since the last report, we visited Lesher, McGraw, Riffenburg, O'Day, Stove Prairie, Livermore, Irish, and Liberty Common. We had participation in the District Accountability Committee, visited the employee negotiations, which are concluded or almost concluded. Attended the Fort Collins High School Caminos Luncheon, which is a program supporting Hispanic students between Fort Collins High School and CSU. It's a terrific program. Attended, as Dr. Smizer mentioned, the PSD Foundation Breakfast, the District Advisory Board, and the PSD Retirees Luncheon. Also, the Student Think Tank meeting, attend the ZAC and probably other elementary schools do heart dissections. Really? Is that right? It's only one? Okay, well, in any case, Susan, I think it was, went to the heart dissection, right? That's pretty exciting. I remember when my kids did that. That was pretty cool. Anyway, attended the GED graduation, probably the first graduation of the season. As Dr. Smizer pointed out, we have a bunch more coming up. We helped with freshman seminar mock interviews, the Fossil Ridge senior interviews that they do at the end of every year. We had the audit committee and the DAB academic subcommittee and the PEA scholarship breakfast that we also all attended. We've done a lot of board development during the year, which if you go back and look at previous tapes or slides, you'll see details of that. So we're winding down for the year here. We still have a working subcommittee on improving our community engagement, and we certainly encourage you to talk with any board member on any subject related to education or PSD when you have something that you want to make sure that we know about, because we want to hear that. And we're continually looking for ways to provide forums where you can speak to us in a public way also. And there'll be information on one of those at the end of this report. We continue to have our informal board lunches. In the community, as I mentioned, we've held regular community engagement sessions. As Dr. Smizer mentioned, the Masonic Student Recognition event. Each of us has met with various constituents on a variety of issues. Attended a meeting with Representative Polis in the community on LGBTQ issues. Attended the Great Education Action Summit. Held the Board of Education luncheon with Representative Polis, and that Dr. Smizer was also mentioned that on the school finance issues. The Center for Family Outreach had a breakfast that we were at, and we participated in a panel on for the family leadership training class. The city liaison meeting was already mentioned. We also attended, that should say childhood, obviously that's a spelling error, sorry, that's my fault. Attended Early Childhood Policy Council meeting. Yeah, I don't know what childhood is. Anyway, and as we've we've tried to work diligently as the legislative session has wound down here, and you can see a lot of things that we've continued to do in that area. Met with legislators and lobbyists, certainly have continued with the Board of Education Legislative Subcommittee, went down to the Capitol for the CASB Day, also for stakeholder meeting on the school funding bills, also for testifying on behalf of education legislation. Regularly attended the CASB Legislative Resolution Committee, and we wrote and sent a position sheet on Senate Bill 1761 and the follow-up legislation, House Bill 1375, right?
That's 17.
I think it's 1375, yeah, which is currently before the legislature. So we've tried to be active in working on legislation that will benefit the district. As I mentioned, we have regular community engagement sessions. The next one is going to be at the Harmony Library at Front Range on May 27th from 10 to 11:30. The focus of that session will be to educate folks who are interested in running for the Board of Education this year. There are 3 seats that are going to be up for election or re-election this year in November, and we invite you to come if you're at all interested and hear what this position is about and how to get involved and how to join that race if you're interested. If you have something else you want to talk to us about, I'm sure we'll make time for that as well. So that's the report.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from other board members? Okay, I think we got it all there. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 5.0, community comment. Just so the folks who are here are aware, this is our community comment podium here so that you can talk to the board directly. Wanted to let you know that everybody gets 3 minutes, and those little lights on there, the green light will go on when you have your 3 minutes on down to when you have 30 seconds left, when the yellow light will go on. The red light goes on when we'd like you to please wrap it up, because I really don't like to interrupt people and ask you to please wrap it up. So if you could do that without me reminding you, I'd love that. And we do appreciate that people take the time to come all the way up to the boardroom to talk to us. So thank you for coming. Just so you all know, we generally do not respond to comments, or else we get into lots of dialogue and it just doesn't work out. But that's why you signed in. We all have your contact information should we wish to contact you after the fact. So thank you very much. And first up, we have Alexa Nikoloff. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. I'd first like to thank all of you on the board for letting me speak here tonight. My name is Alexa Nikoloff, and I'm a senior at Rocky Mountain High School. Tonight, I am taking the opportunity to campaign for change in an area of PSD that I feel is lacking: mental health education. Mental illness is on the rise, but education for mental health remains stagnant. As I was looking on the PSD website, I saw on the January 10th Board of Education meeting minutes that the focus of this year is mental illness. Many of the plans that they're trying to implement deal with students who clearly need help: more counselors, teacher support, and better peer counseling programs. While this is a step in the right direction, there's a looming issue that parents usually forget. There are hundreds of students out there who are living with a mental illness and don't know it. They don't know it because they don't know enough about the symptoms and indicators of illnesses. And all this leads back to a lack of mental health education. As I see it, if a student doesn't know that they need help for a mental illness, they're not going to get it. I know this personally. I've been struggling with obsessive compulsive disorder since 5th grade, but I wasn't formally diagnosed until 10th grade. For 5 long years, I struggled with the intrusive and horrific thoughts that ran through my mind constantly. And I didn't want to tell anyone about the thoughts I was having because I thought that I'd be labeled as insane. I didn't know that my symptoms were textbook clinical OCD. While most people think of OCD as hand-washing or perfectionism, as the media usually conveys, my thoughts were about self-harm. I later learned that this was a typical OCD thought. So why didn't I learn this in school? Because you can't teach the symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder in a quarter of a class period. And that was basically the amount of time that was allotted to each mental illness in my high school health and wellness class. I'm here campaigning for a required mental health class in PSD. This would ensure that teens are given the education for mental illness because I didn't have that opportunity. This class needs to be implemented for those who don't know that they have a mental illness and don't get help. I didn't. I hate to think of how many peers are in the same sinking boat that I was. Our current health classes do not expose students to the education that they need. If economics is a graduation requirement here, like personal finance classes, it is no question that a mental health class should be. Right now, we are protecting students' financial well-being with economics and finance classes, but why aren't we protecting their mental health? We need to protect our students, and we need better education for mental health and PSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Eric Sutherland.
Good evening, guys. Eric Sutherland, a citizen of Fort Collins, a parent of a parents' Tudor School District freshman. Here this evening to make note of the fact that you're not issuing any bonds this evening. Not issuing any bonds 6 months after the election. And gosh, just as I had predicted, after I read the complaints that were filed in the 8th District Court, you are no closer today to issue or claim preclusion against the claim of failure of due process brought on by lying to the court than you were at the conclusion of the election. No closer at all. Not even against me. The lawsuit against me did not result in res judicata, compulsory claims, counterclaims that I need to be made. I dodged that. Okay? So, it's time to really take stock about your strategy here. Your strategy with the Federal Circuit or Federal District Court claiming Tabor was unconstitutional, that didn't work out very well for you either. It might be worthwhile to reconsider your litigation strategy at this point in time. Maybe even more important, look at your long-range plan. Your long-range plan sucked, guys. Anytime you put the citizens and residents and teachers and students of a community in a position where they have to sacrifice maintenance of effort in an atmosphere of rapidly increasing costs of living, to build new schools that will be filled as primarily from people from out of the state and out of our district, especially without Southeast Elementary School. Anytime you're putting people in a position like that, it sucks. And I think you guys jumped into it without any idea of what you're doing. I heard a couple of weeks ago discussion of a tornado path, and an analogy of school finance in Colorado and a tornado. I've been watching that for 6 years. That's why I've been trying to get some traction on the fact that most, if not all, tax increment financing in Larimer County is patently unlawful, has legal infirmities like crazy. Couldn't get any traction on that. So you guys are just in a situation where you're going to find yourself continuing to tilt after windmills until such time as you reckon with the actual problem. Now there are solutions. There's solutions I've come up, solutions that other people have come up with, but it's, not much point talking about those until there's somebody willing to listen, and there's not at this point in time. And finally, I just have to conclude by saying that I was appalled. A lot of other people were appalled with Dr. Smizer's comments that were made in an email that went out where she took pity on a teacher. You've had the opportunity to shore up teacher salaries, shore up the amount of money that we're spending in this school district, and you failed to take it in favor of running off and building new schools that you've never been able to validate that we need.
So I think we have some other students from around our district in the room tonight. Am I correct? Can you guys just, if you don't mind, just stand up and tell us what schools you're from, and if you're here for your class or for just because you felt like coming to a board meeting?
So we're here from Rocky, and we're in Teacher Cadet, which is a program where we spent the first quarter learning how to make lesson plans, researching kind of everything that goes along with teaching, and now we're in field placement. And in fact, our last week of field placement, and we're going to go on to presenting our portfolios, and that goes along with Front Range. We get more college credits for that. So.
Thank you. So we have two students here who are, I'm just repeating for our people out in the another world who's watching, from Rocky Mountain High School and the Teacher Cadet Program. And that's a partnership also, it sounds like, with the Front Range Community College. Thank you, ladies, for being here very much. And any other students in the room that I missed tonight? Okay. Well, and so thank you all of our students for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. We always appreciate hearing from our students. Okay, that moves us on to item 6.0. May I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
Before I make a motion, I would like to remove a few items from the consent agenda.
Please do.
6.6, addendum to Liberty Common First Amended Charter School Contract. 6.7, 2017-18 FRCC Career Pathway MOU. And 6.9, Early Childhood Duration Grant.
Okay, we will make those our items immediately after action item 8.1. So they'll become 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.
Okay, and then I would move that the board approve and adopt the recommended actions for the remaining items on the consent agenda.
May I have a second? I think we have a second by Carolyn, a third by David, and was that a fourth by Christoph? Okay.
Susan had one too.
Oh, I'm sorry, and a fifth by Susan. Thank you very much.
Nate?
Yes.
I like this fifth.
Christoph?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to 7.0, informational reports. And I believe we have Carolyn Martin, our Director of Early Childhood, here to talk to us tonight about that.
That's correct. And give me just a minute to navigate to my presentation. So good evening to the board, to President Kipp, to Dr. Smizer, to the cabinet, and all who are assembled for this evening's meeting. It's always a welcome pleasure for me to come once a year before the board and give you the update to the early childhood program. And I would like to also have you acknowledge that we have our federal Region 8 liaison, Ann Kyrie, is with us this evening. She has been with me all day. She makes an annual visit to the program and has been out to see the Family Center, Irish Elementary School, Beatty, the Head Start funded programs there, has been in meetings with us, met with finance at lunch. So she's here with us this evening. So a large number of early childhood materials were presented to the board, and you've had a chance to review those. The presentation this evening is really focused on the biggest change to our early childhood program for the upcoming year, and that is the change to some children attending full days. So prior to this, the early childhood program has had half-day sessions. Children only attended half-days at this time, and as the board knows, as you've worked with us for the past year, to pass the duration grant amendments, we're moving to that full day for 40% of our children who are Head Start funded beginning in this upcoming fall. So this is a major expansion. It is all-day classrooms for some children, and this is our federal money. So this is our Office of Head Start funding strand only. And this is a requirement of the new Office of Head Start performance standards. So the performance standards for the Federal Office of Head Start were under review for many years, and they were finally approved this past fall. One of the big provisions of those new performance standards was that children who had this funding would attend full days, or a total of 1,020 hours each year. And so those performance standards having been approved, Congress also made money available for this program to begin, because it will take more teachers, more classroom space, more classroom furnishing and things to make that happen. So our total grant award was $1,006,475. So we have a one-time amount in there of $177,000, and that is for the creation of the new classrooms that are required, furnishings for those, and some minor renovations to the sites that are needed And then there's an annual increase that we'll see each year to our budget of $829,000, and that's for the recurring costs of salaries and supervision. Staffing in general is our main cost for the early childhood program. So I do want to tell you that as this money comes in, one of the great achievements of our district and the program was to first of all find space for this. We needed 4 additional classrooms in order for this to work. And our school principals dug into their buildings and found 4 classrooms at Lopez Elementary School, Johnson Elementary School, Putnam, and Bowder. So those are our 4 new classrooms. They are not the all-day classrooms, but those are where the expansion spaces are located. So that means that we were able to implement this program without cutting a single slot from our other funding sources, which is the second big achievement that I would really like to highlight on this slide. So all 1,100 of our children continue to attend for the upcoming year, even though we've really expanded the program in this big way. This is a pie chart, and it reproduces what you've seen in the annual report that was given to you. It just shows the shift in our funding. We're now close to 32% funded through the Office of Head Start, so this has been a tick up in our federal funds as a proportion of our overall pie. I think other places where our pie has gotten a little bit bigger this year are in our other funds. It's just been a great year for us in terms of applying for and receiving other kinds of grants. From CDE, from Bohemian Pharaohs. So that's another place where the pie is a little bit bigger. We implemented this big change to our program through a steering committee and work group model. So the steering committee was composed of a large group of stakeholders from a variety of district departments, including operations. We had representatives from HR, from, oh my gosh, I have the person's face in front of me, and I'm blanking out because I think I feel a little nervous. In any case, we had parents on those groups as well as our own staff members. So they were facilitated by members of the early childhood leadership team, and our early childhood teachers, paraprofessionals, and home visitors also comprised the membership of those groups, and parents. We chose this model really in part to highlight the developing integration that's been part of our program for the past 2 years, working together as district partners, in-district and community partners, parent partners. We feel like we have developed the strongest kind of implementation for a big change to our program like this. And this is all lined up with our comprehensive grant goals. So this will be, this is the beginning of our 3rd year with our 5-year grant. Our goals remain the same. So we continue to work on student attendance. We're specifically looking at children whose attendance is less than 85% and intervening for each of those children. Another important goal for us is to monitor and take action when children are not acquiring oral language. So for children who are the ages of our kids, 3- and 4-year-olds, it's most important for them to be able to read later for them to be speaking well now. And so we monitor their oral language acquisition and take action when it is not going the way that we want for it to go as fast. And finally, our 3rd goal is integration with the district and with our community so that we can be fully embedded and do our work to the best for our community and for our families who rely on us. So that concludes my presentation to you about the very large looming change. I think one thing that I failed to mention in the first slide is you may be wondering how many children that will be if 40% of them are attending full days, and that is 110 children. Are there questions from the board?
Okay, questions. Rob and Carolyn, did you look like you had your hand up? Okay. Rob, and then Nate. Rob, Carolyn, and Nate.
Yeah, this sounds like terrific news. I appreciate your sharing it with us. I see that my understanding is you expect this $829,194 to be an annual thing that we'll get as an increase, right? Do you know how many years Congress has appropriated the money for that? I mean, really what I'm asking is, given the change in administration in Washington and some of the changing priorities that they've enumerated, I'm wondering whether there's any risks to these funds going forward.
I wish that I were good to make you an absolutely accurate prediction about that, but sadly, I don't think. But what I will say is that this district is proud to have had Head Start funding, federal funding, for more than 50 years.
Great.
And so those commitments that have been made to American children have been longstanding commitments. I think that it would take quite a little bit to dismantle that. But again, it's difficult. This is one of the most unpredictable times I've seen as an adult voter for our government right now. So it is, I find that I'm unable to tell you for sure. that
No,
we're
no,
looking
I
at the
understand.
next
I
50
understand
years.
there's no guarantees in this environment, but I just wanted to get your sense, and I certainly hope that we continue to have this and continue to grow, frankly, as the opportunity presents itself.
Me too.
Carolyn.
Hi, and I know that when we met as a group with Todd and some of the other educators earlier this year, we talked about some of the results of the testing, and I just wondered if you could share some of the highlights from that.
I would say that for this year, and again, I want to love that we're talking about testing and assessment for children, but really highlight something that is so extraordinary about the assessment used for early childhood. And that is that it's authentic, it's developmental, and there are absolutely no biased testing conditions for the children or the educators who use this assessment. So we're like the most lucky group of educators in the district. We get to use exactly the kind of assessment that you would like to with children. We watch them. We watch exactly what they're doing as they guide themselves through centers and through exploration in science and literacy, and then take note of the dimensions and indicators that we see that children are doing. I think a big step forward for this year has been the training that we provided for staff members to really be focused on using that assessment tool in a formative way. To really increase the accuracy of the data that's collected there, both on a daily formative basis and at the summative benchmarks. So that was that grant that we got from CDE that we applied for with curriculum instruction and assessment. So both kindergarten teachers and pre-K teachers have had training this year from that grant, and ours was really focused on ensuring that we're making the most kind of accurate inputs to that formative, especially assessment data. Does that answer your question? And it's a stellar assessment, so I just have to share my enthusiasm about it.
And Nate.
Yes, I wondered about some of the numbers that I see in the report and in the slide. I think it's on page 2 of the report, talking about grant funds of $52,000, which is almost double. And then you talk in the slide about the grant funds of a little over $1 million. Is the money talked about on the slide, does that include like local match, so it's not all external funds?
This is you're asking a really well-placed question. So when you take a look at our budget, you'll find the funds that are alluded to in that $52,000 in the other category. So those are the ones that I've been talking about, the CDE grant, the Bohemian Pharos. So those are the local grant monies. And we have increased. Last year when I reported to the board, that was about $26,000. This year it's 52, but that's in that category alone. So the other figures that I've given you are the accurate figures for our federal grant funds, and you'll see those in the budget in their own separate columns.
So the larger amount is Head Start and Early Head Start money, or federal funds that are used for a variety of programs?
Another good clarification, the only federal money that we have in the early childhood program is Head Start or Early Head Start money. So there's not, not other federal funds represented there.
And those have increased substantially in the last year or two? Is how you were able to greatly expand this program?
Those were expanded. Congress allocated the funds in spring of 2016.
Okay.
And we made our initial application by the deadline at the end of June. And so it's all from this past year. We applied for it last spring of 2016. We were given notice of the award in December of 2016. And that money, as you see it now, is in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, other board members? Thank you so much for being here tonight, Director Martin, and we always appreciate your annual report and the cute pictures of the kids that you bring with it.
Right?
Okay, that brings us on to 8.1, resolution in support of Teacher Appreciation Week. And I believe I had a couple of board members who were arm wrestling to determine who had the privilege of making this resolution. Ooh, it looks like maybe Susan won.
I got it.
Good job. Okay. Susan.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Whereas teachers make public schools great, and whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors. And whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Poudre School District Board of Education, hereby support National Teacher Appreciation Week, May 8th through 12th, 2017.
Okay, may I have a second? Nate seconds that motion. Okay, would we have any discussion prior to a roll call vote? I think we are ready to have the roll call.
Nate?
Yes.
Christoph?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Now I believe we have Tom List here on behalf of the teachers to accept the recognition on behalf of our teachers.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Smyser, cabinet, and PSD community. Thank you for this proclamation of Teacher Appreciation Week. I'd like to read a short excerpt from a letter by Lily Eskelsen Garcia, the NEA president, and Laura Bay, the National PTA president. They wrote this morning, "Dear extraordinary teacher, you're constantly evaluating what works and what doesn't, making quick adjustments on the fly, and assessing who gets it and who needs a little extra help. You come in early and stay late to give students the one-on-one attention they need. You inspire a lifelong love of learning and guide children's futures. You advocate for children and your profession. And in the midst of it all, you create safe spaces where kids can be themselves. You dig into your own pockets to buy sneakers for a child in need or replenish the classroom supplies. You heal boo-boos, you give hugs, and offer warm, encouraging, and affirming words. For you, there is no such thing as other people's children. They are only your kids, the students you love and nurture as if they were your own. We not only thank you for all you deliver to the children, we are proud to stand with you in everything that you do to make sure that students in every community have access to the great education that they deserve. Together, we are making a difference for our nation's students. Thank you for being extraordinary and inspiring students to reach for the stars. With much gratitude, Lily Eskelsen Garcia and Laura Bay." Now, of course, PSD teachers could not do what they do without the support of our tremendous classified staff, from custodians to bus drivers to paras, and to our technology wizards, and also to our quality administrators who take care of our students and promote teacher leaders. So thank you to my fellow employee group presidents, Joe Gronsky of PACE and Tony Rowland of ACE. We also couldn't do what we do without the help of our special service providers, who give our students and their families much needed assistance. We have a supportive cabinet and a superintendent and a school board. Thank you for being so dedicated to our kids. You get teachers what they need, so teachers can get our kids what they need. I'm reminded of a speech that Dr. Smyser gave 2 years ago to retiring PSD employees. She said that we never really know the impact we have on our students or on the future. And she's right. A teacher might teach over 10,000 students during their career. Most students don't stay in touch, but some do. So I would invite you all on social media, in conversations, or perhaps on a microphone if someone gives you the chance, to publicly lift up a teacher that was important in changing the direction of your life. Right now, I'd like to lift up Mrs. Massey sixth grade science teacher at Bradley Elementary, Denver Public Schools, who in 1971 showed me the magic of endothermic reactions and made me write a book report about the planets. Thank you, Mrs. Massey. You opened up the universe for me. I'm sure we could all carry on for hours about teachers that have impacted our lives. And old teachers like me are often amazed at the wonderful things our former students are doing to make the world a better place. A few days ago, I got to have lunch with a PSD grad who, during his junior high and early high school years, was hell on wheels. He was making so many bad decisions that we thought we might lose him. But something changed that. His story is that individual teachers turned him around. Now he works in Nicaragua with a Fort Collins-based environmental organization, and he is making the planet a better place. A couple of days after that, almost by chance, I met another PSD grad who is now a doctor in California, and she is helping one of my own family members get through a tough situation. She is making her own community a better place. And today I had the chance to hear the Kennard Mustang Chorale sing the national anthem at the Poudre Retired School Employees Association Scholarship Luncheon. It was so beautiful that it gave me chills. Their director is Mr. Scott Wheeler, a PSD graduate. I'd like to thank our parent community. Thank you for entrusting us with your most precious gifts, your children. Let us continue to work together to give every child under our care the best education possible. They deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to all of our PSD teachers. You guys do amazing work for our kids. We really appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to our new 8.2, which was our former 6.6, Addendum to Liberty Common First Amended Charter School Contract. And I believe Nate had a question or comment about that.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that in that contract, there is an allocation from the 2016 bond that was approved by the voters, assuming that actually gets implemented. And I know that the charter schools do very well with limited funds, as all schools have limited funds. And I know that they wanted more in terms of allocation. And the board thought that that was all that we could allocate at this point in time. And I would just encourage the charter schools to think seriously about future bond issue and other mechanisms to fund capital improvements. And that's really the only reason why I wanted to pull the item off of the consent agenda, but I would move that we approve this contract.
May I have a second? David. Okay, any other thoughts or comments or questions on this item? Okay, I believe we're ready for the roll call.
Nate?
Yes.
Christoph?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, the next item is our new 8.3, which is our former 6.7, which is the 2017-2018 FRCC, Front Range Community College Career Pathway MOU. There was just a typo on that one. There was a misspelling of a name, but that has been corrected, but we're bringing it off of the consent agenda so that it's corrected for the record, that people will know that we made a small change before signing it. Any questions or comments? Nate?
I would move adoption of this memorandum of understanding.
Okay, may I have a second? Rob, any other comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Nate?
Yes.
Christoph?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
And 6.9, Early Childhood Duration Grant is now our new 8.4, and we're pulling that also off because there was a typo in the letter at the end, just an extra punctuation mark, I believe, and so we are, again, correcting that for the record. May I have a motion to adopt that?
I thought we were pulling it off just to make Carolyn nervous.
Oh, is that why she's still here? I'm sorry, Carolyn.
Oh, okay. I would move adoption of that item.
Okay, may I have a second? Christoph? Yeah. Somebody down there. Okay. Would anybody like to make any comments or make Carolyn more nervous? Okay, I think we're ready for the roll call on this one then.
Nate,
Yes.
Krista,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
motion passes 7-0.
That's probably about the fastest we've gotten through 3 action items, wouldn't you say? Okay, 9.0 discussion items. We're on to 9.1, revisions of policies, GP, which are our board governance policies, 3.3, 3.8, and our BSR, which is our board superintendent relationship policy, 4.4. And Tom Crabb is here to walk us through those changes.
At the April 11th meeting, Ms. Kipp did note that policy GP 3.3 did not reflect current agenda planning practices in the district, so we were charged with meeting with Ms. Kipp and Mr. Trask to propose some revisions. The explanation of what's being brought before the board, I think, is clearly set out in the agenda cover sheet, and I really don't have anything to add to that. The only specific comment that I'd make or thing that I'd point out with respect to any of the policies is in GP 3.3, paragraph 4, the last sentence referencing other board members besides the president and vice president at agenda setting, putting items on the agenda. It does specify, in addition to that, that other board members may request agenda items. It goes on to say that those agenda items shall be added to the agenda if approved by majority vote of the board. And I just wanted to point out that that doesn't mean that a vote has to be taken and that the only way requested agenda items get on is by vote. It's simply that if the request isn't accepted in the agenda setting process, that the other board members have an avenue to sort of compel the item to get on the board if they can get a second with the motion and a majority vote to add it. I just want to emphasize that I think that it would be, given the cooperative way that this board normally works, fairly unusual to go to that step. But since we basically were revising the process of agenda setting, wanted to put in a specific mechanism for board members who are not the president or vice president to be able to do that. So with that, if there's any questions, otherwise I think with the explanation in the cover sheet that the proposals for the 3 policy revisions are fairly self-explanatory.
Questions, comments? Rob?
Yeah, I had, in looking at, so, the procedures I don't have any problems with. I think that's fine. I think the only thing that occurred to me is that we have EL 2.2 treatment of staff as a policy that we review in August. And it seems to me that it would make more sense to review that either during or toward the end of the year, because to the extent that, you know, we want to hear, you know, a monitoring report about how things are going, we don't want that. I don't think we want to carry that over the summer. I'd rather hear about it during the year in which whatever is happening is actually happening, and have us an opportunity to respond to that or to ask for modifications going forward when whatever is going on is fresh in our minds.
Okay, and I guess I would like to ask if Vicki Thompson, our Executive Director of HR, would be willing to weigh in on that. I know it's a little impromptu, and not saying that it would happen. You'd have to have it ready next week or something. This year we could keep it in August if we decided to move, but does that change make sense to you? I can't talk anymore, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a concern about that.
Okay.
Is
Sandra?
there any particular time that would be better? Or
I think toward the end of the school year.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Other board members, are you okay with that? So should we make that a May agenda item, or would that be better to have as a June agenda item?
I think, well,
I think June would be better because then we could get some additional data toward the end of the school year.
Okay, so do it at the last business meeting of the year? Okay, so whenever somebody makes a motion to we're not ready to approve these, so.
Yeah, this is
we will- the discussion
first
item,
reading.
correct.
It would be brought back. Let me ask, I mean, I can make that change. If there aren't any other changes or concerns, they can be brought back on consent if that works. But I do have a question. If we change the month of review for treatment of staff from August to June, if that's brought back and approved at the next meeting, what are you going to do in August? Do you want to wait to?
so we'd have 2 reports on this next year, just as a transitional thing. Yeah, I think that's fine, if you like. Or
So-
I personally wouldn't have a problem if we just waited until June, but it's up to you.
Well, I think that would mean we were figuring out a sync, so I think it would be good to do it. And I do believe there was the TEL survey this year, right? Which I was not wanting to miss the results of.
There was no TEL survey this year.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's been put on hold, so it's going to be, the CDE is reevaluating the questions.
Really?
So I believe it'll be 2018. I don't have confirmation on that yet.
I guess does it make sense then to wait until after August? I mean, you can approve the changes as written and then just have basically an administrative change after August to change EL 2.2 to June. Well, if we change it now, then doing it in August would not be in compliance, is all.
I value your legal advice, and I will leave it to you to implement it best way possible. So thank you.
I think if that's acceptable to the board, then I won't make the change to June until after the August report, which you're expecting for this August.
Great. Any other thoughts or comments or questions on any of the other changes here? Because this is sort of our first reading. Okay, is everybody okay with these being brought back on consent at the time our council deems most appropriate? Yes, we are. Okay.
I have a thought and a comment, though. I'm exceedingly nervous that Nate is sitting in my seat. I don't know what that means. Other than that, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to 9.2, and hopefully we won't have more arm wrestling for that chair over there. Discussion of Board of Education's budget, and I believe we have Executive Director of Finance Dave Montoya, otherwise known as Super Dave, here to make the report to help us talk through this item.
Yes, good evening. Short agenda topic tonight. We are reviewing the board's budget as we do annually. Within your packet, you're going to find a document that details out the not only the summary of where the board's expenditures are coming in this year, but also what we might propose as a budget for next year. Now, a couple notes just to keep in mind. The board's budget has historically been $138,000 per year. And that hasn't changed over the last 4 years, and what's being proposed tonight is no different. It is the same budget that you've had for the last 4 years, of which is pretty typical of most departments within the district. Many of the operating budgets have not advanced since the recession. Within this budget, there are a number of line items. We line item these out to guide the budget during the year, but that's not to say that these line items can't be revised. We really allocate the budget out at the location level, which would be the board of Education budget for $138,000. But we do break out some line items just to give some guidance to the board on how they might spend their money for the year. And obviously, that's up to revision if the board sees fit. We do pay for software. This is where we post our board agendas. So we've got a budget for that. The board budget also supports the facilitator during the negotiations process and supplies and operation around that, but it's mainly just the facilitator there. As you know, we do pay Ms. Davis to do transcription and other work for us during the night. So that's included in the budget. We also have our legislative lobbyist comes out of the board budget, so that's included in here, as well as CASB dues. That's something that we've covered annually every year, and I haven't heard that we're not going to do that. The board budget does have a budget for travel and conferences, and that budget is currently $29,000 as displayed in your sheet. There is a line item for technology, although we have not heard that there is a great need for technology, but just know there is a line item for technology. Again, some of this money can move between line items. If you see that, okay, we don't need technology, but we have a conference that we want to do, we can easily do that. That's not a big deal. And then the last one is just supplies for the board, copies, and then also meals that are provided during the dinner session. So that's all that's in the board's budget. I can take any questions that folks may have. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. One thing I do want to make a note of before we take questions is, because I got this question earlier, it has been common practice that the board doesn't spend all of their budget annually, so you can see even in the projection for this year, we're projecting that the board will come in under budget. Just so the board's aware, the board's budget operates a little differently than school and other department budgets do, and anything that's unspent from the year does go back into district reserve. So there is a small contribution back to district reserves if we hold to the projection that we have here.
Thank you. Nate?
Can you remind us what the discussion was about the budget year going forward? It seemed like we were going to be cutting the board's budget significantly, and I'm trying to remember how that was going to work.
Yeah, what we talked about that, so really there's two items that I think about that the board monitors on a detailed level. One is the budget for the board, and that's not what we were talking about. The other one was, I think you might be referring to, is the contingency reserve being maintained by the board, and we have discussed taking that from 2% to 1%, of which is a very large number, yes.
Rob?
So I don't have a question. I just want to make a couple of comments. One of them is, one of the things you won't find in this budget is salaries for any of us. Just to be clear, it's $138,000 sounds like a lot of money, and we don't get paid. And so, by the way, if you're interested in running for the school board, you should know that. But there's a lot of gratification and fulfillment in other ways. But since we're talking about the budget here, I just want to make sure that folks know that there's none of that in here. And when you talk about travel and conferences, we really try, I'm just making a comment obviously, we really try to be cognizant of spending that money carefully and in a way that we think will help advance the work of the board in support of the district. So when we go to the CASB conference, we spend a lot of time talking with other school board members and other, for that matter, the State Board of Education folks, and sometimes elected representatives and whatnot, to get the best ideas to help bring back to our district as well. So I just want to assure folks who are watching that we really try to be careful about how we spend this money and make sure that we do it for the benefit of the district.
And I wanted to add on to that, because I was going to mention a couple of those things too. But not all of the items, I think Dave mentioned a little bit of this, that are in our board budget are not necessarily board items, like negotiations. Board members don't, participate in negotiations, but we do support that function for the employees. That could sit anywhere, but it just happens to be sitting in our budget. A lot of people use this boardroom, so if they buy new chairs for the boardroom, comes out of our budget. So just so you know, it's not like, some resort funding. Also on the board contingency reserve, that is not a slush fund. We are not going off to Tahiti when they refill that reserve or anything. It is actually just stuff. It's a good name for it, and it's a good place to keep the money safe. It's not that the board is spending it. So I just wanted to make clear that the board's not off spending all this money on its own, because otherwise people think that they're missing out on something. So, okay.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments on the board budget?
I would just
Rob?
add that contingency fund is a contingency for I don't know whether emergency is the right word, but sort of extraordinary
Extreme emergency
expenses
situations, yes.
that need to be expended on behalf of the district, be it schools or other needs that we have. It doesn't have anything to do with the board per se, except that we have the discretion to allocate it to somewhere or the other.
That's correct.
Okay. Other than all those disclaimers, anything else that we should be, questions, thoughts? Well, yeah. Okay. No, I think it's good to be clear, because otherwise people like, really? Okay, it looks like we are clear on our board budget for next year. Everybody's good with it? Okay, I think we can move on then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And that brings us to 9.3, our legislative discussion. Wow. So just let me tell you that there are 28 hours and 13 minutes left until the end of the state legislative session. The state legislative session began in January. It's mandated by law to be only 120 days long. That includes weekends, okay? I have to tell you, even though it was one of my kids' both of my kids' birthdays last night, one of them was home from college, but I was sitting there watching the Twitter feed, and apparently channel 165 will get you the State House floor, which I did not know until last night. And in rapt attention, because there's incredibly interesting stuff if you're an education finance geek like me. And it was just amazing to watch last night. Basically, some of the interesting things that have happened in the last couple weeks, and I'll let everybody else jump in when you're ready. So the Senate Education Committee decided to stick the most controversial education bill into the School Finance Act like a week ago Friday. And that's really not cool, because then people are like, well, are we going to vote against school finance, or are we going to vote for something that we really, really don't like? And so somehow it got stripped out, and then it got put back in, and then it got stripped out. At this point, then they turned it into, they got rid of the first hated thing, which had been its own bill, and they turned it into a compromise bill, which our board has taken a position against, because we sincerely do not like it, and it will cost our district money, but it is likely to pass tomorrow morning. But so all sorts of interesting things happen, like I said. So there's a new bill, that's Bill 1375, which the chair of the House Education Committee, Brittany Pedersen, put forward, and it's separate from the School Finance Act, which is Senate Bill 296. So you have House Bill 1375 to watch. It's not final. It'll go through. So email your senators tonight, okay? And tell them basically what this is going to mandate that we do on 1375 is override the will of our local voters. Our local voters, when they voted for mill levy overrides, said, we told them we will spend the money in these ways, right? And right now, this bill will essentially override that and make us do different things with that money than what we believe the voters intended. We actually don't believe this is a constitutional bill. It's very likely to end up in court. However, the legislature does what the legislature wants to do. So please email them and tell them not to do it. Just saying. There's also Senate Bill 296, which is the school finance bill, which I think that's almost to the end. At least the bad stuff got stripped out, so it's normal. And I believe also, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, that we were slated to get $185 more per student than we were last year. But in the last version of it, they were able to get us to $245 more per kid. Is that correct?
That is what I've heard. I did download the bill before the board meeting to read the most recent version, and they have not updated those numbers yet, but we are hearing that that had happened.
And we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 28 hours and 9 minutes now. There's also Bill 267, which is called the Rural Sustainability Act, which is also in play. And while you wouldn't think that the rural, because we're not rural, Sustainability Act affects us, it actually does affect us. You might have heard of something called the hospital provider fee. And the hospital provider fee is a fee that hospitals charge in Colorado, and that fee is matched equally by the federal government, and all of that money goes to hospitals to help people who basically can't pay their bills. We have people who use emergency rooms and cannot afford care, and that money goes to subsidize them. So essentially that money helps our state. Well, what was going to happen is, because of our current budget situation, is our rural hospitals in particular, we're going to lose over $300 million, or was it $500 million? There's a lot of money flying around anyway, or not flying around. And so that money was going to go down. There was some rural schools money that was in that. There was a lot of pieces to that legislation, but essentially that hospital provider fee made us bump up against something called the Tabor cap in the general fund, which meant that any money over that amount, even though it's in the general fund, even though we can only spend it in the way that we really consider it more of a fee, so we want to reclassify it so that we don't go above that amount in the general fund, because once we go over a certain amount in the general fund, we have to return money to the voters, which, I'm sorry, but in a state where we are the #1 economy in the entire country, in Colorado, that we cannot adequately fund K-12 education, which, even though we're getting more money per student this coming year, we are still below what the voters told us to finance education at back when they voted in Amendment 23 back in the year 2000. So, sorry, lots of pieces there. But we are cutting education. Education is funded below where it is supposed to be. The amount that it's going up is supposed to cover inflation on a per student basis, but we have not fully covered those costs. So just to explain that, because it's a little bit confusing for people. Yeah, so what the compromise was, so basically the Democrats said, we want to move the hospital provider fee, and the Republicans said, no way, and then the Republicans said, well, if we can lower the Tabor cap, we're willing to move the hospital provider fee. So they came up with a compromise of $200 million. I know it sounds like a lot of money. So they're going to take $200 million, lower the Tabor cap, which isn't as much as they otherwise would have lowered the Tabor cap, and it looks like this is the version that's going to pass. It's not done yet. There's still, as I said, that 28 plus hours. The idea is that the hospital provider fee will get moved into an enterprise fund, so if it grows in the future, at least that won't be subject to the Tabor cap. And so the good thing about a compromise sometimes is that you have a bill that everybody hates. And so nobody thinks it's ideal, nobody thinks it's perfect, but it might be better than nothing. So those are, I think, the really big ones we were keeping an eye on. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize. Anybody else from the legislative committee want to comment on anything that I might have missed? Or okay, I think those are the major pieces of legislation. We, as a legislative subcommittee, are also going to continue to meet as we do before every board meeting at 4 p.m. Those are open meetings if anybody would like to come. What we are looking at now is looking at the board's legislative agenda for the coming school year. And I know it seems like, wow, you guys are just finishing up. Why are you doing that now? Well, basically, in order to start advocating both through the Colorado Association of School Boards, through our legislators, and anybody else we need to advocate with in order to make change happen, we need to come up with our legislative agenda, the changes that we think are important now. So we did have, oh, I forgot to mention that there is one bill that I think people will generally be really happy with that's sitting on the governor's desk right now. It's Bill 1181, and that is actually going to reduce the amount of testing that we have in high school. So it's going to take the PARCC testing completely out of high schools, and it's going to replace that essentially with a version of the PSAT. So there's like the 9th grade PSAT and the 10th grade PSAT. And so now 9th graders and 10th graders will essentially take a PSAT version, and then they'll take the regular SAT, and that'll be the primary testing in college. There's still that additional social studies and science test which we're forced to give, but it's better. And so that was really one positive thing that happened in this legislative session. But anyway, so if anybody has things that they would like the board to add to their legislative session, if you have a great idea for something that you think should be changed in education, please feel free, because we have till probably June 15th, but really the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from today, to start pondering these ideas for our legislative agenda. So we welcome your input. Other thoughts? Okay, well, apparently that's that. And you know what? I dropped the ball, everybody. So with the board's permission, I would like to move item 11 and 10 and swap them out because I'd like to do agenda planning now so we don't have to come back out of executive session and do it later. So with the board's permission, is that all right with everybody? Okay. Agenda item is our new 10.0. And are there any agenda items that people wish to get onto a future board agenda? Okay. Well, see, that was a fast one. I'm glad we moved it. Okay, our new 11.0 is executive session. 10.1, superintendent job performance feedback. And I believe Director Pedersen has a motion to read.
I move that the board go into executive session in the superintendent's office as authorized under CRS 24.6-4024F to discuss personnel matters related to feedback on the superintendent's job performance. Individuals invited to join the board in executive session are Superintendent Sandra Smizer, Legal and Policy Counsel Tom Crabb, Assistant Board Secretary Kyla Davis.
Okay, may I have a second? David seconds. Okay, I think we're ready for the roll call.
No, I have a comment.
Oh, Rob.
I just for purposes of just for informing folks who don't follow this stuff regularly, we have as part of the superintendent's contract, we have 3 times a year that we do performance feedback for the superintendent. This is one of those times, so it's just a regular performance feedback session.
Good clarification, thank you. Good.
Okay, go for it.
Yes.
Kristaps?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming tonight and for watching on TV. We will not be coming back on TV or out into this room following the executive session. We will proceed straight to adjournment after that. Thank you for your time. It is 7:59 p.m.